I'm not the same man I was. That's something I'm noticing as time goes on. There was a time when I would look at people and judge them by their appearance, and it didn't matter to me who they were on the inside. I would look at the exterior, and I'm pretty much ashamed of myself when I think about it now. It bothered me then, but not to the point where I felt like I really needed to change it in such a drastic way. I thought I could fine tune a little bit here and there, but basically I was a judgmental, prejudiced ass. And an example would be certain friends of friends that I didn't like. If they came to me looking for a phone number, I tell them, get the hell off my doorstep. If they came to me looking for anything, I would run them off. People that I didn't like, people that I didn't really know, but they had a certain look to them. I felt justified in laying hate on them, laying fear on them, because I would get aggressive at times with certain individuals. All I had to know that it was friends of pothead XYZ, and I knew that these people were to be run off my property. And it just didn't matter to me what they needed, how badly they were in trouble or anything. It was just get the hell out of here. And if they didn't move quick enough, I'd go after them, you know. And it's I'm sure I picked this up at the Kingdom Hall. You know, my folks were very standoffish with any of the neighbor kids. Really, there were very, very few kids that were in the neighborhood that were even allowed in our garage. Forget the house, just to hang out in the garage with us and throw darts at the dartboard or whatever. You know, they really took it to heart. The bad association spoils useful habits mantra that the Watchtower, what I see so clearly now, uses as a mind control tactic and a behavior tactic. I think in another video I made a point of talking about a certain individual, a guy that I've known over 40 years now. We're going on 45 years that we've been best friends. And there were times when I was told by my parents, you can't talk to this guy at school, you can't play with him on the playground, you don't want to hear that you're hanging out with him, you can't call him on the phone anymore. And I would be like, why? And the mantra would come out, bad association spoils useful habits. Usually the same night we got back from the book study, or back from the service meeting, or the same day that we got back from a public talk or a Watchtower study, that this scripture was being misused by the Watchtower. And in my other video I said that, you know, I was talking with my friend at school and I was down and not feeling good about it, and he asked what was going on. I told him what my folks had said, and he said, well, maybe you should obey your folks. He goes, and I said, no, this is BS. There's no reason that I can see, even at that young age, I was what, 13, 14? I could see that there was something wrong with the way that was going. There was no connection between him being a bad associate and creating waste, you know, spoiling the useful habits that I might develop. And I'm glad that I nipped that in the bud. But still, when it came to strangers especially, or people that I knew very vaguely, I knew they were, if they hung around with that thief over there or with that rapist over there. I've known thieves and rapists and a couple of murderers in my life. And if I knew they were hanging around with them, I would use my supposed theocratic good standing to justify my asshole-ish treatment of them. And well, I was kind of an enigma to my wife, because she had seen some of that with certain friends of the kids that would come around. I'd run them off, and if their parents came with an attitude, I'd run them off. But then once we were driving to her dad's house on the highway, we were going up Interstate 80, and there was a car on fire on the side of the road, and I stopped, and she tried to hold me in the car, and I just broke free from her without even thinking. I just got out and I tried to help. I assumed there was somebody in the car and got waved off by the CHP. He was flying in close to 100 miles an hour from behind us. And when I heard his siren, I looked up, and there he was waving his arm at me like, get out of there. And so when the police arrive, the fire department arrives, it becomes their arena, and so I moved out of the way. And from my peering into the car, I didn't see anybody, but the inside windows were pretty black, and they weren't really cracked or anything. I assume I could have opened the door if I had been able to. You know, the thing was locked up. So that was kind of a riddle for her to try and figure out, who's this guy I'm married to. He treats everybody like crap who he doesn't know and isn't friendly with, but he'll risk his neck for somebody who's never seen before, you know. And I don't know. It reminds me of the scripture. I can't remember it right now, but Jesus said, you know, what good are you doing if you only give good gifts to your children, to the people that love you? We should love our enemies. We should pray for our enemies. And that's the other extreme. Somebody that's actually out to get you, you pray for them and you show love to them. And that's quite a departure from just a stranger that you really don't know or have judged because of the clothes they're wearing or the way they style their hair. Well, I'm getting at something here, because a couple of Saturdays ago, a young man was knocking on the door. I'd never seen him before. He's a big kid. He's about 6'2", I guess. 190 pounds. Tattoos up and down his legs. Physically fit. Looks like a pretty stout guy. And he asked for my son, and I said, well, who are you? And he told me his name. And old me would have probably told him, get the hell off my doorstep, you SOB, you know, what business do you have with my son? But there was just something about him, and there was something in me that I felt just totally different about this guy. And I told him, come in, which is something I never would have done back in old days. And I said, have a seat, let me go get my son. And my son was working out at the time. He was in his room, and I could hear the barbells clanking. So I knocked on his door, and I said, this guy's here to see you. And he comes out, he's like shaking his head. He's pissed off that this guy's here. And he asked if brother so-and-so was here, and I said, no. And my son comes out at that point, and he goes, dude, he goes, that guy doesn't live here. You saw him here one time. Why are you here? With kind of my old attitude, you know, but except he knows him, you know, a little bit better. And wow, I got really irritated with my son. I said, settle down. I said, let's find out what's going on. And he said, I'm looking for this guy because he and I had arrangements. He was supposed to give me money today. or last night, and I haven't been able to locate him. And my son said he may come by later tonight, I don't know, but it'll be much later. If you want to come back then, we'll see if he's here. And the guy left. He goes, all right. And he looked really irritated. And I felt bad. And so I talked to my son about it, and he told me that they had made some kind of arrangements. The other kid that he was looking for had promised to pay him Friday for a bow and arrow. It was a measly $15. And it didn't sound like this other kid to welch on a deal like that. And having talked to that kid a couple of nights before, I knew that he didn't have any money because the place he was working for was supposed to direct deposit money into his account and didn't. And he had told us he was angry about that and was dealing with them. And also somebody had paid him for a side job, given him something like $80 in a roll. He put the roll in his pocket, which he never does. But he did this time. He normally puts it in a wallet, and the roll disappeared. He looked everywhere he went that day, and he couldn't find it anywhere. So the money was gone. So obviously he couldn't pay this guy. Now it's starting to come together for me to understand the deal. And so I was just thinking about it. I was praying about it, and I was just like, I don't understand why people are coming to my door, but you know, just let me do what you want me to do when things like this happen. I don't understand it, but open my eyes and open my heart. Let me be helpful if I can. Take this, spirit of, wow, what kind of a spirit is that? Uncaring? Privatized spirit, maybe? I don't know, an introverted spirit? But, about a couple hours went by and the kid came back. And he asked to talk to my son again. My son came out. He was like, look, dude. And I said, shh, calm. And I said, what's going on? And he goes, this guy is supposed to be a man of his word. And he told me he was going to pay me and he didn't pay me. And I was like, I noticed that he had a limp. And he was walking around in our living room, and I could tell he was limping. And I said, what's the matter with your leg? And he told me, he said, he just had a procedure done on his ankle, and they didn't stitch it, and it's hurting him. And I said, let's see. My wife used to be a practicing LVN. She was a nurse. And I asked her to come out and check, and his ankle was indeed swollen, and it was not sewn up, but it didn't look infected, she said. My vision, I could see a swollen ankle, but I can't determine how badly infected something looks. And so I said, why don't you sit down? And he goes, no, man. He was like really irritated. He goes, I can't believe this guy. And I said, shh, just calm down. And he said, I'm a type 1 diabetic. He said, I haven't had anything to eat yet. And I said, okay, I know where you're coming from. I'm type 2, but the thing is the same. I said, please sit down. And he goes, no, man. He was like really irritated. And I said, please, let me help you. And his demeanor changed. I kept a calm voice with him. My son had walked into the other room, which is kind of a blessing because my son is very hot-headed. But, and I said, please, sit on the love seat, put your leg up. We're going to feed you. I'm going to get you an ice pack. My wife's going to look at your wound, and we're going to try and see what we can do for you. And at first, he just wanted something to drink, and then he finally relented and accepted some chicken strips we had made there. And the poor kid ended up falling asleep. And before he did, he was telling us that he's homeless. He's he was a Marine, did some tours in Iraq actually, and is now homeless. And he's diabetic, and he's got his issues, and with no place to live. And so my heart went out to him, and we let him sleep. And then he got up probably a couple hours after that, and he went on his way, and he shook my hand, and he thanked me for the kindness. And like I said, this guy had tattoos all over the place. He was a very rough-looking guy, very tough-looking. And I could say 10 years ago, even 5 years ago, I may have run the guy off. And just yesterday, this is Sunday now, Sunday night, and he came by yesterday just to say hi. And we talked with him for a while, and I made him something to eat. He asked me if I had a glucometer to check his sugar because he was feeling poorly. And the symptoms he was giving me were high blood sugar, but when I checked him, thankfully he was only at 125, which is considered fairly normal. Like he said he hadn't eaten anything in a couple of days, and so I gave him something to eat, gave him something to drink. And again, he fell asleep. We have a very comfortable love seat. I mean, it's leather, and it's very well stuffed, and it's very comfortable. In fact, I prefer to sleep on it than my own bed sometimes. The big couch, I mean, not the love seat. The big couch is even more comfortable. But I have felt a transformation after leaving the Watchtower and leaving the... I'm sure that each kingdom hall has a garrison of wicked spirits that are stationed there to aggravate situations and to, let's see, instill the wrong attitude in people, a non-Christ-like attitude, a spirit of Satan that is fostered in the kingdom halls and in the literature and in the public talks, that turns what Jesus wants, which is for people to love each other and help each other and not judge each other. And all you have to do is look at the people in the organization and the lack of love that's there, and the judgmentalism and the standoffishness, the carefree attitude that, well, they're just worldly people. And I'm grateful that that prayer was answered, that I not remain in that, with that spirit of hostility and anger towards people that I don't even know. And it's, I heard it from my son after the kid left. And he was mad at his other friend who had made the deal and welched on it. And I said, don't be angry with him. They said, you know he doesn't have the money. And he goes, yeah, but we have these people come into our door now on account of this mother F and his BS and all this stuff. And I just calmed down. I said, he goes, you're sick and you're having to deal with all this crap. And I said, I wanted to help the guy. And he goes, yeah, but you don't have to. And I said, yeah, I do. I said, I need you to be calm and relax, and don't be angry with your friend, and don't be angry with this young guy, because these things are irrelevant. I said, I don't want you to think that I felt put out because I gave somebody some chicken to eat, because I helped a guy with a swollen ankle. I don't want you to feel that. I said, we need to be generous with our time and with our love. I said, it doesn't do me any good to sit in this house and love you and love your mom and love your brother and your sister. And that's it. I said, if the love isn't all-encompassing, including enemies, I said, who we should pray for and who we are supposed to have love for, then the love is meaningless. And so I have learned something through the presence of Christ in my life, what it is to actually just love somebody and not, it doesn't matter what they look like or how they behave. There's a difference in me. And I just wanted to share that. I know I've blathered on for quite a while now, but I just felt I need to share that with you guys. I will speak the Lord's shalom over each and every one of your lives, those that you love. Peace and love, joy, mercy and grace be upon all of you, and I hope to talk to you again soon. Shalom.